Welcome to Vancouver Business Network, where entrepreneurs learn, network, and grow. I am Roger Killen, the organizer. Our weekly workshop for entrepreneurs is brought to you by TELUS Business, the fastest and most reliable pure fiber broadband network in Metro Vancouver. Our speaker is Graham Best. Graham founded GB Memory Dynamics Inc. in 1976 and began teaching memory systems to groups as diverse as Undercover Police, BC Real Estate Association, and adult students. His most recent publication is Your Complete Guide to Building a Memory Palace. Graham's personal mission is to teach with passion things that matter. Vancouver Business Network members and guests, I invite you now to give a rousing VBN welcome to Graham Best.
Why, thank you very much. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here. I've been having a hard time all week just waiting to get and share this fantastic information. Now, the talk is called Improve Your Memory by 700%. And I'm betting that there's people here going, oh yeah, right. You know, what an exaggeration. But in brackets, notice what's there. It says, yes, really. And I'm hoping by the end of this presentation that you will say that. You'll go, wow. And you'll be amazed, not at myself, but at what you are able to do. Now, Roger's already said that this is my personal mission statement. A number of years ago, when I taught in Vancouver at high school in physics for 39 years. And before I had my job teaching, I was in university. And I really thought I had a lousy memory. I mean, when you take physics courses, they give you all the formulas. And you can always figure things out. And there were courses I wanted to take, but they were very, very memory intensive. And I thought it just isn't possible with me. I don't have a great memory. Then I came across some memory training materials. And I thought, why wasn't I told this before? I mean, it absolutely was a game changer for my life. I took ancient Greek. I wanted to read some ancient manuscripts, and there's lots of verb endings, very difficult, memory intensive course. I got 100% in the final. And I mean, there's nothing special about me. I was on the old Ellen Thick television program when he had a talk show, and I memorized the entire studio audience and the last 4 digits of their telephone number. And yeah, oh, you know what? People go, oh, wow, I hear that all the time. But listen to me, you could do that. Anybody can do that. It's just a matter of actually learning how, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, a couple of thoughts. Why memorize? And one of the reasons is it'll grow new brain cells. You know, we're in a society where we're depending on media so much. Something happened a number of years ago. Some people passed away and they dissected their brains. And they found out that they had an Alzheimer's brain. They had an Alzheimer's brain, but there was no sign of it in their life. Isn't that interesting? And they said, what did these people have in common? And what they found out was these people, to a T, had higher education as what they had, and made a difference in their brain so that it would actually compensate for the effects of Alzheimer's. Later research showed that it's not just higher education, but it's actively using your brain and actively even memorizing things. And people think, well, how? How do I go about that? And that's why we're here this evening. This will give you a competitive edge if you have a trained memory. And certainly internal change, there's things you can meditate upon and think upon and just have them in your head because you've memorized them. Now, to get into this, I want to ask you a question. How many of you, I know what the answer is right now, have you ever been given a name and a moment later the name is gone? Yeah. Oh, come on. You're going, yes, that's me. Well, the fact is you didn't forget that name. You never learned it. You know, you need to do something to process that name. Or even worse, you ever parked your car and you come out and you're going, whoa, I have such a bad memory. Where did I park that thing? Well, the fact is you didn't forget. You never paid attention. Unless you pay attention, how are you going to remember? In fact, the art of memory is the art of attention. And I'm going to show you one particular way to pay attention tonight that, as I like to say, it's a game changer. And I'll get at it by an experiment. Suppose I could call out to you 2 words, okay? And the words would be, say, monkey and bike. 2 words. Then I say, okay, I'm going to call out another 2 words. Say, clock mustache. And then I said, here's 2 more words. And I kept calling out 2 words until I called out 30 word pairs. Then I said, all right, people, you look like you're ready and up for this. Number from 1 to 30, I'll give you the first word and you tell me the matching word. Whoa, you would not do well with that experiment. You would remember something at the beginning, something in the middle, and you'd be thinking, oh, I got to hang on to that. Oh, but that's going away. You simply would not do well at that at all. But there's a way of beating the system. Let me ask another question. Think of your favorite food. You got something in your mind? And I am sure some image came to your mind. But the letters S-T-E-A-K did not come to mind, nor did F-I-S-H. Oh, wow, that F-I-S-H. Wow, you know, it doesn't happen that way. Your brain loves pictures. And here is an amazing secret. If you want to really ace that experiment where you have the 2 words called out, if you join the 2 words into one scene, your memory retention, the change in your ability to remember is dramatic. In fact, if I put the monkey on the bike, I put the 2 into one scene. Now the question is, how much better would you do? I have people guess and they say, well, I know I'm going to do better. People guess 50%. I've had people guess 70%. I've had people guess maybe 100% better at that. But the answer is, are you ready? This is our number for tonight, 700% better. And in fact, that's amazing. I was explaining this once in a class, and this lady said, may I say something? I said, sure. And she said, I was in a college class at the university where they actually did this experiment. And she said the prof, got to half the class and explained to them, I'm going to call out 2 words, you put the 2 together in this little picture, and then the other half of the class had no clue. When the class gathered together, she did the experiment. And she said her word was, it was dramatic, because the half that had been tampered with and learned to put the 2 together in a picture, they got almost 100%. And the other half, they got almost nothing. And all I thought is, how did all the smart kids know to stick together, right? And I mean, the point is this lets you leverage your memory. You know what a lever is? You can use a lever and you can multiply your force. You can push with 100 pounds and get like 1,000 pounds out. But this ability with pointing 2 pictures together, it will let you leverage your memory. So let's actually try it. We're going to build the first room, say, in a memory palace. Now, this works so much better if you're using your own room and you're in a room and I could be there with you and you can see how it's done, but I'm going to have to lend you one for now. And we are going to use this room right here. I hope you can see it well on the screen. And I'm going to just have you learn 8 words. Just memorize these words and do your best and engage with me as we do this. On this empty wall right there, I want you to imagine the word crayons. Some kid says, hey, there should be a picture on that wall, and imagine them drawing pictures all over that wall. Now say the word aloud with me. It is crayon. Excellent. Now inside the sofa, you're sitting on it and you find a whole bunch of cash. Isn't that neat? There's all these stacks of cash and you're going, whoa, I hit the jackpot. You pull it out, stuff your pockets, right? On the tree that is there, I want you to imagine a monkey. Right in your house, there's this monkey and he's doing little tricks. He's turning around and jumping around and doing little flips. All right, what was on the wall? And what's on the sofa? And what's on the tree? Monkey. You got it. Now we're going to go to the big window there, and I want you to imagine a can of red paint. And I want you to take that can of red paint, just throw it right at that window. Get everything messed up and it bursts through the window. It's a can of red paint. Say it aloud. Now we turn around the room and there is the mirror. And we're going to remember the word beach ball. So maybe take a beach ball, throw it at that mirror and see if you can knock the mirror down. Or if you can't, take that beach ball and hit it against that mirror. See how often you can keep that beach ball going. The word is beach ball. Now we're going to use the mantle of the fireplace. And I want you to imagine a small toy car or truck, little toy car, we'll say. And that little toy car is on that mantle. And you're trying to make it fly off the mantle. You're getting it accelerating across there and you're seeing how far it'll fly across. On that mantle is a little what?
Toy car.
Toy car, all right. And now inside the fireplace, I want you to imagine popcorn. And so not only is there a little bit of popcorn, but it starts coming out. It's just pouring out of that thing and it's hurting you. You're saying, hey, stop that, whoa. And so the popcorn is coming out of the fireplace. What was on the mirror? Okay, what's on the mantle? And what's coming out of the fireplace? Now, right on the table in the center of that room is a guitar. And imagine that guitar sitting there, or somebody standing on the table, on the glass table, playing the guitar, entertaining you. Can you imagine that? All right, let's see how we did with these words. Are you ready? What's the first word there? And what have we got here? And what have we got there? And what have we got here? And we got red paint. And what have we got over here? And what have we got on the mantle? And what have we got on the fireplace? And now on the little table? Guitar. All right. Now looking at the whole room just as one scene, let's just name them. It'll just be right there at the tip of the tongue. You've got right here, and down here, and on the tree, and over at the window, and on the mirror, and then down on the, you got it, and out of the fireplace, and finally on the, all right, now 8 words memorized fairly quickly. I mean, I'm going carefully, a little bit slower, but look at this. Here's exactly what we did. You can join 2 words by pictures into one scene. And when one word then is given, it right away brings the other one with it. And now you can memorize furniture. If I said to you, could you name the furniture in your living room? Well, of course you could. You could sit down, write down that furniture, and now that furniture doesn't change. And you can go back to that room, see that furniture, and it becomes the prompt for the second word. And so when you tour the furniture, you're reminded of that word. You can do this in maybe 20 different things you can memorize in that room, 20 words. Go into the other room, go into another room. You can memorize 100 words, and I can just hear people saying, so what? So what? Good trick. You know, why would I want to memorize a whole bunch of words? And I agree with you. So here's what we can do. Most of the things that you have to memorize are intangible words. Would you agree? They're intangible. Here are intangible words. Purpose. Can you see purpose? Can you see a concept like justify? Can you see a name like Andropov or a concept like time? Those are intangible words, or the invisible words. And one of the neat things, and this is the game breaker, you can memorize tangible words by placing them on furniture. Do it easily, memorize as much as you want to. But if intangible words can be turned into pictures, that's the game changer. And every intangible word can be turned into a picture. And this is exactly how we do it. You can use logical reminders. You can't see time, but you can see what? A clock stands for the invisible time. And there it is. I can't say, here, would you have, well, I'll give you some time there. You can't see it, but you can see a clock. Justify. I mean, you can't see it, but now you can find a word that sounds like it that is a picture. For example, justify. Now, justify would stand for the word justify. Now, another example, I remember I woke up one morning and I heard the new premier of Russia is Andropov. I thought, what a strange name. How am I going to remember that? And I imagined a little Anton walking across my roof, and all of a sudden, Andropov. The point is, there is not a concept, there's not an idea, there is not a word that cannot be turned into a visual picture. So I'm going to do this now. We're going to use this to memorize an actual article. We're going to take an article, and we're going to memorize this article by looking at something and putting it around, this time in front of a house. This could be any article. I've chosen one called Life in the Blue Zone. And this came across my computer a couple of weeks ago. And in 2004, National Geographic, they went and found 5 cities in the world where people live to very old ages. You know, they live to over 100, they're vigorous, they're strong, they're full of energy and everything else. And they said, what are these guys doing? And in 5 separate cities around the world, they found out that there are 9 things that they have in common. Isn't that interesting? Would you like to learn these 9 things? Yeah. Now, I know the last time I did this, people are snapping pictures of it and trying to get them. You know what? You're going to memorize them. You don't even need to. You're going to walk out here and say, I got them. Let's take a look at these 9 things. Number 1 is they exercise throughout the day. In other words, they're going to walk a lot. They would, if they have to go a little bit of a different distance, greater distance, they're going to take a bike. And we know today, I mean, if you will vigorously exercise every day, go for a nice walk, it is not only good for your body, but it's good for your brain. In fact, exercising is better for your brain than the brain games that you can spend a lot of money on. I mean, and the exercise is global over your brain. The results are also very, very quick. These people exercised. Next, they had a sense of life purpose. They had a sense of purpose. And they live a stress-free life. Interesting, stress-free life. And they had meaningful, healthy friendships and supporting family. And they eat less. They eat less. In fact, some people have mentioned Dr. Amen to me, and Dr. Amen said, as your weight goes up, you know, the size and function of your brain, you know, or sorry, as your weight increases, the size and function of your brain goes down. You know, that's how important it is to cut down. In fact, I was watching one of the TED Talks, and it was on neurogenesis, which is growing brain cells. And it was very specifically, if you eat less, you're going to grow brain cells. Can you believe that? I mean, it's an amazing thing. So eating less. Also, eating more plants, less meat, and having a good, strong sense of community. And this is interesting. This was faith community. Those that were involved in a faith community, and in some of the cases, their number was they could extend their life by 14 years even. And interesting result. And the other one, drink less alcohol. Some, but less. Now let's memorize them. And we're going to put them around this house, right in the front of the house. Again, if we had a house that we all knew really well, but you watch this, standing there on the driveway are exercise people. Can you see them? And they're jumping jacks, they're doing those things right there on that driveway. Now say it with me aloud. It is exercise. Now inside that carport, inside that garage, the man who lives there, he has a very strange group of pets. He's got great, big, huge tanks of water in there, and he keeps porpoises. Porpoise, a sense of purpose. And imagine those porpoises jumping around the water, having just a great time. What's in that garage? Purpose, porpoises. And now sitting here on these steps is an incredibly stressed person. Now, can you see a stressed person? I mean, they're sitting right there on those steps. Okay, what was on the driveway? Exercise. What's in the garage? Porpoises. And what's on the stairs? Stressed person. Now, standing at the door, knocking on the door is your best friend. And you have a very meaningful, healthy relationship with this person. And they're knocking on that door. And then when the door opens up, who's behind the door? Your family. And they're all clapping. They're supportive family. All right? Are you getting this? What was on the driveway? What's in the garage? And what's on the steps? And right in the front of the door is your friend, and behind the door is your family. Now we go to the window. And this is an exaggeration, because when they say eat less, I mean, if you eat the right foods, you're going to feel, full, But I want you to imagine great big plates, and you're looking at the people through the window. They got these big plates, just tiny little bits of food, like in a fancy restaurant. You've seen that. And there's this little tiny bit of food and these great big plates, and it's just eat less. Can you say that? Eat less. Now we look at the plants on the outside, all right? We come to the plants, and that's more plants, less meat. Say that? More plants, less meat. And now on the front of the house there in that grassy area, there's a community gathering. They got the picnic tables out. They've got this covers on the picnic table, and they're drawing great big happy faces on them, big face. So faith communities. And that's all in the front grass there. What is it? Faith community. And now up on top of that roof, there's a guy sitting there, and he's drinking. And he's watching all these things taking place in you. It's like, whoa, you better be careful up there. And he's drinking, and that's drink less. All right, let's see if you've got it. What was here?
Is that alcohol you're saying? Drink less alcohol.
Drink less alcohol, yes. So you've got the driveway, and what's there? And now you've got the garage, and now you've got the, and right at the front door, friend, behind the door, and now on the window, and now on the plants, and then on the grassy area, and then up on the roof. Okay, less alcohol. Well, let's see if we can name them then. Here it is, life in the blue zone. Are you ready? What's the first one? Exercise. Now, what did these people do in particular? Did they go to exercise? They, throughout the day, it's there in your mind. What was the next one in the garage? Purpose. You've got a sense of purpose. And now on those steps, stress-free life. Stress-free life. And now in front of the door, meaningful, healthy friendships. And then, behind the door, you have supporting family. And now in the window there, you've got eat less. And then on the plants, more plants, less meat. And then finally in the grassy area, you've got, and then up on the roof, you've got, and there it is, you've memorized it. Now this can be, do you understand, any article at all. I just happened to pick this one. All you have to do is be able to convert the intangible into a tangible, find some place that you know all the locations and furniture of, you can put that stuff there, and you can memorize any article and almost anything that you want. Let's talk about this a little bit more. I can just imagine some people saying, though, yeah, but how long will it last? How long will it stick in my head, right? Let's take a look. The first person to do experiments on memory was this guy, Herman Ebbinghaus. Now, this is really good information, and it's going to be comforting to you, I think. And he did his work in 1885, and he decided to test himself. He says, I'm going to test myself and my memory and see how I do. And so he decided not to test himself with simple words, but he made up a nonsense syllables by using a consonant, a vowel, and another consonant. And he made up words. For example, gim is a word. It doesn't mean anything, but it was a word to him. And he made up almost 2,000 of these words. And he put these words in a hat. And he said, now I'm going to test my memory. And he would start drawing these words out of the hat. And I want you to imagine a list maybe 16 items long, 20-something, 30-something, 40-something. And he said, now let's see how long it takes me to learn this. And he used a metronome. And to the beat of a metronome, he started reciting the words to test how long it would take him. And when he could name that list twice, he said, now I know I've got it. But what was most interesting with this, something called the forgetting curve. Everybody has one. And he plotted a graph of the amount remembered, 100%, 50%, 25%, and on the y-axis, he plotted the time. And that's what the forgetting curve looked like. Most of your forgetting happens right away. It happens right away. And he found that most of the material appears to decay. You know, it will appear to decay. But the problem is, you seem to forget immediately, but it's absolutely normal. It happens with everybody. Now, if you went home in a couple of hours, said, let me see if I can recall those 9 things in the home, you know, life in the blue zone, you may find out, oh, I can't remember what's in the garage. And you think, oh, so it doesn't work. But no, there's a forgetting curve. It's absolutely normal. And here's what happens. If you even memorize things that are, you know, picturable, you get a less steep curve. And look at this. If you now relearn the material, it takes a fraction of time to relearn it. A fraction of time to relearn it. So in other words, if it took us 10 minutes to learn those words, when you go home and you're thinking, oh, I can't remember those 2 or 3, it may take 30 seconds to remember them. And then the forgetting curve starts again, but less steep. And then you relearn it again, and a forgetting curve will start again, less steep. And you keep that up, and in the words of Ebbinghaus, he said it becomes a possession of your soul, and you will know it for the long term. So you have to keep going over information, things that you want to hang on to. Now, being aware of this, I think you can see the importance of reviewing your work. But do you understand that you can memorize almost any kind of an article, the content of an article? And I'll give you some other things that you can do with this memory system. Now, locations, you can use any room. And you don't want to build a whole bunch at once, but you want to learn a couple of rooms really well. You want to go in them. You maybe want to draw where the locations are, maybe take a picture of them. And the thing is, learn those rooms. You can use malls. You can use malls in a store where you have each store contains something, or you can go into stores if you know them well. You can use parks. You can memorize poetry. In fact, the girl that was editing my book, she called me and she said, yeah, her and her husband were singing for Handel's Messiah. They were going to be singing, and it's a long performance with the symphony. And she said, I tested out this memory palace, and her words to me were, I memorized every one of those texts, and I could name every one. It took me almost 2 hours to recite, she said, by going through a memory palace. That's how powerful it works. You can use restaurants, you can use coffee bars, you can use a car, a boat, an RV, anything you want. You can use any locations during a drive or any locations during a walk. It is absolutely amazing what you can do. Now, what are some of the uses of this memory system of the memory palace? You can memorize an article. You can memorize errands. You know, you can say, okay, I need to do these 7 or 8 things today. Oh, let me put them in and you have some room reserved for it, and you just put them there, and you practice and then trust your memory, test your memory, strengthen your memory, and then go through about those errands that you want to do. Now, maybe you need to write it down and put it in your pocket for a little while because you don't have the confidence, but you'll find you can trust your memory. You can memorize sayings and conversations. The Undercover Police have me every 2 years, and they have to memorize conversations. They are often thrown in jail as a jail buddy with somebody and have to memorize the conversation. And they can't be saying, excuse me, would you be quiet? Oh, you write that down? You know, I get into a lot of trouble. But the fact is, they have a whole room built and they can put what they want to learn on different locations. You can memorize product information, presentations, and reflective readings. It's almost endless. You're limited only by your own imagination. Now, a couple of thoughts. You need to write things down. Here I am teaching memory, and I'm saying write things down. The thing is, you have a forgetting curve. And there are things in life that you want to hang on to, and you want to be a lot sharper and write on with many things. Well, write them down. I suggest you get yourself a journal. I call it a memory minder. And you take that journal, and then you go and you buy little category markers. And one of them, you're going to have little sections, and that's what the marker would look like. And you can make up your own sections. You know, what are your interests? What are the things you want to know? And one would be new words. You know, I would go so far as to say, unless you write down a new word and you engage it a little bit, you're going to forget it. So one of your sections would be new words you're learning. And there's studies that show that if you learn new words and increase your vocabulary, even that causes neurogenesis. So learn new words. About your friends, people, write down things you're learning about your friends, how they take their coffee, when their birthday is, things they've told you about their family, so that you can be a much more caring person. Write these things down. You'd have a category for that. For articles, I mean, this article here on the Blue Zone, I think is an excellent article. There's so many articles you have, and I would say it's worth writing them down and then memorizing them, and then, going back to them until you have all sorts of information at your fingertips. Ideas. You should have a section for ideas that you're coming up with. And stories and interesting facts. I mean, it's hard to get a good joke today. It's hard to get a good story. I was giving a workshop, it was in Langley, and it was for active seniors. This lady came up and she said, do you remember the Art Linkletter show? No, probably a lot of people here wouldn't remember it. But he had a show called Kids Say the Darndest Things. And he would interview kids, and they'd say really, dumb things, embarrass their parents. Well, he also went to old age homes. And he looked at this lady and he said, do you know who I am? And she looked at him. And she said, no, but if you ask the head nurse, she'll tell you who you are. I mean, what a great story. And speakers are always looking for stories, Another one I heard, you write these down, is the Electrolux vacuum cleaners, right? They came from the Scandinavian countries. But you see, they didn't know all the nuances of English, right? And in the advertising that went across North America, it said, if it sucks, it's an Electrolux. And they quickly changed that. But the fact is, I mean, you write these things down because you're going to forget them. And I mean, have a section for interesting stories and one for gratitude too. Start that gratitude list, read it over and over and over. It's so useful. And I mean, you'll have more and more categories, but this is a way of memorizing things. You know, you've got your memory palace, and you've got something in that room, and you're going over it, and then pretty soon it's there, and you'll never lose it. You've got it written down also. Now, one of the things that's important is one of the great secrets, I think, that is in life in general, is something called training versus trying. Now, I ran in the Vancouver half marathon a few years ago. Honestly, I didn't walk, run. I actually did it. And how did I do it? I didn't just show up on the day and being an almost non-runner say, mind if I run along. I mean, it would be pretty pathetic. But I got a little program that gave me 18 weeks. And I said, okay, here we go. Every day you did something. And every day you stretched yourself a little more. And every day you stretched yourself a little more. And pretty soon you could do things that you would not normally be able to do by that discipline. And I was able to run that 21 kilometers. And I mean, it was a wonderful experience. By the end of the 18 weeks, I was right there. Same with piano. Suppose you had piano lessons as a kid and you played and you had 1 year of lessons. Now at your age, someone puts in front of you Mozart's Sonata in C and says, here, go and play it. Well, you could try as hard as you want. You can't do it. The only way you can do it is by training, starting with simpler pieces. You know, work on the scale, build up until you can do it. The same thing even with shooting baskets and almost anything, training versus trying. And that's what my book will help you do. The book is fresh off the market. It's called Your Complete Guide to Building a Memory Palace. And I will give you scenarios in life that you can look at and see how the memory palace will apply to that. You're driving in your car and something is coming to your mind. You're thinking, oh, I wish I had a pen to write it down. I give you scenarios like that. And I lend you my imagination, and soon you can do it yourself. Let's look briefly at names and faces. There's two separate situations here. One is you meet that one or two people and you forget their name. Well, there really is no excuse for that. Just be attentive. And the word is store. S is say it. T is 10 seconds. O is 1 minute. And R-E is review it, record it. And I don't mean, record it, speaking, but write it down, record it and review it. So it's say it. Now say this aloud with me, all right? I know, here we go. S is say it. The T is, and O is, and the R-E is record it, review. Now here's what I mean by say it. If you meet somebody, you need to say their name aloud. I mean, if you don't say it aloud, you're going to lose it quickly. But all you've got is it's there ready to be processed. Now, there are advanced things you can do, but all you need to do after 10 seconds is come up with anything that makes you think of that name. Suppose you meet somebody named Bob. Well, right away, interact with the name Bob. Say, oh, I know other Bobs. You're doing this mentally. I have a friend named Bob this. Oh, there's Bob. Oh, there's movie stars, Bob Hope, Bob Newhart. And you just you build whatever you can, whatever comes to your mind, you make a connection. There are people that have, songs. My wife's name is Sylvia. And I mean, I met somebody and right away, instead of saying, oh, hello, Sylvia, how are you doing? They started singing a song called Sylvia's Mother. I mean, I don't know the song. I think it predated me. But I mean, they'll never forget her name. And the point is, you make any connections you can that comes to mind within 10 seconds. Now, you be very creative. Now the name is getting there a little bit more permanently. Build as many bridges as you can. If there's other ways in, do it. And then in 1 minute, go over it again. Just review the name. If you can use the name naturally in conversation, do it. But don't force it. I mean, it bothers me when I meet business people. My name is Graham, and they go, hello, Graham. I'm glad, Graham, that you, Graham, are here, Graham. And I go, oh, come on, what course did you take? People like to hear the name, but use it only if it honors the person. It's natural in conversation. But either way, in 1 minute, if you can use the name, do it. And if not, then, just mentally review it in your mind. And then, go over it again in that 1 minute. And then by recording it and reviewing it, what you want to do is you have to write it down if you're going to see that person again. If you're going to meet that person again, write it down and go over it. And you'll go over the who, the what, the why, the where. Where did I meet them? Why were we together? Who did they remind me of? What are some of the features they had? Different things like that you're going to write down as a little memory aid. Now, here is the professional way. If you ever turn on your television and you meet somebody, our guest tonight is Mr. Memory or Mrs. Memory, And the person walks out and they name 100 people. Wow. They're doing exactly what I'm going to show you right here. The only difference between them and you is practice. One, you got to get the name. You know, you've got to say it back, and then now it's ready for processing. The best way to retain it is picture the name. Make a little picture of it. And I mean, my name is Graham. How about Graham wafers, Graham crackers, Graham, you know, you make something that's going to picture your Graham, and there you got the picture. Every name can be pictured. Then you look at that face, and now this is where you're going to join two pictures together. You'll find something on the face, and then you're going to connect your picture to it, and I'll explain. And then you're going to write it down if it's for the long term. Now let's meet some cartoon people. This works well. This guy is Rod. Now you need to say the name. Are you ready? What's his name? Rod. All right, Rod. Okay, what picture could you use for Rod?
Fishing rod.
How about a fishing rod? Now this is what I'm going to say is an insult to your sensibilities. Okay, but you got to really do something that's going to make that person make it stick. You could have somebody sitting on the edge of their nose, with fishing. How about this? Stand at a distance from them with a fishing rod and clean out their nose. Oh, no, that's awful. Oh, edit the tape, cut that out. The point is, if you did that, could you forget the name? There's no way you'd forget the name. And they'd be wondering why you're so cheerful and laughing. Now, so that's Rod. Okay, now this is Dennis. Dennis. You notice that Dennis is balding. Now, Dennis sounds like what sport? Tennis. Now look at his head. If you look carefully enough, you can almost imagine people playing tennis on his head. You can almost see it there, right? Did you know, this is interesting. There was these two guys, right? And they were stuck on a desert island. One guy's name was Ping. And he picked up this great big huge plant and he hit this little light thing he had to his friend Pong. And Pong hit it to Ping. And Ping hit it back to Pong. And Pong hit it to Ping, and they invented the game. And you know what they called it? No, tennis. Now, this is Dennis. Now, this is Mark. And you notice he's got very dark brows. And imagine that he takes out little dark markers, and every night, I'm going to darken my brows. Mark. His name is Mark. There they go. And this is Audrey. And so I'm going to take that hair, and I'm going to imagine that hair all around an odd tree. And you see trees that are bent, all the little limbs are going different ways, and that hair is sitting on all those different limbs, and it's Audrey. What's the name? Audrey. Now this is Frank, and he's got big ears. Now people come up to me and they say, "What did you do for my name?" Do you understand? I can't tell you the truth. I mean, can you imagine? Well, you got a big nose, and there's no way. I said, yeah, I got a nice smile. But here's, this is Frank, and he's got big ears. So you could put Frankfurters on his ears. And every time he wants to, he just eat some Frankfurters. Or how about Frankenstein earrings? He is wearing Frankenstein earrings. What's his name? Frank. All right. And this is Bill. And Bill has a dimple there in his chin. And imagine you've got a big bill and you want to store it right in his chin. And you say, here we go, in the chin. And you just stick it inside his chin. And then when you want it back, you reach over, bang, pull it right out of his chin. And his name is Bill. Now, you do this, and let's see how we do. Who's that?
Dennis.
You got it. Now, are you ready? See how well we do with this? Who's that?
Right.
You got it. And who's this?
Audrey.
And who's that?
Bill.
Bill. And who's that? Rod. And that's what you would do for names and faces. Now you think, okay, that's ridiculous. But the problem right now is you have trouble coming up with the names. I gave a talk one morning and I thought, you know what, I need a little bit of entertainment myself. So the first fellow walked in and I said, at a breakfast meeting, and I said, would you mind meeting everybody and I'll show you how to remember the names? Now, what if I asked you? What if I said, okay, you're going to meet everybody and then you'll name them back? What do you got to lose? And so he said, well, I'll try it. And this is exactly what I did. We would meet 4 or 5 people. And I said, don't trust your memory right now. Make the picture do the work. Make it a game. Have fun. And he did that. And we met 5 people, then 10, then 15, then 20. And there was over 30 people there. And I started the meeting and I said, okay, everybody stand up. And I said, all right, see how many you get. I said, you've never done this before. Started at one and named every single person. Now, do you understand? This is a skill that you can learn. It's just a matter of practicing with it. And who is this guy? Look at those eyebrows. Mark, you got it. For real people. Now, what would you do with this girl, okay? Her name is Wendy. Now, just think about this. Look at her hair. And right away, what comes to your mind? Wendy. And so I'm going to imagine the wind blew her hair into curls. And that's simple. And her name is Wendy. I look at this guy and I say, oh, look at that mustache right there. And his name is Rick. And I'm going to imagine taking a rake and cleaning out his mustache. All right. What's his name? Rick. And that's what you do for names and faces. And again, it all boils down to what we talked about, training versus trying. And so it's memory training. You don't just go out and try to do better, but you train your memory. And that's what this book will do. This book will take you slowly, step by step, give you many, many real life scenarios. And with that book, you will be able to do many things you'd never believed possible. Also, I have another book called How to Remember What's His Name. And this book I'm willing to give you for free. And you can go, and here's where you can find these books, gbmemorydynamics.com. And if you go there, there's a link to go to Amazon to purchase the book. And also with the book come videos, because it's all visual, and you can get the training that way. And with the names book, it also comes with videos, and you also get to practice there's a certain kind of a way of doing programs on Thinkific, and you can practice with names over and over like a PowerPoint until you get it down really well. Anyway, that's it. I mean, there's so many things to say, so much more to say, but that's the essence of what it's about with the memory palace and memorizing names and faces. And I encourage you to pursue it. All right. Thank you very much.
Don't go away. Graham, on behalf of Vivienne, I thank you very much for sharing this life-changing skill with us.
It is, yeah.
And our old friends from TELUS, thank you very much for making this recording possible. Good night.